Hello friends, Kisan is here again and welcome you in this video tutorial. In past videos, we have learned how to create session factory in Hibernate. In this video tutorial, we are going to look how we can write an entity class or model class in Hibernate. So I have already project which we had created in our past video tutorials, and there I had shown you how to create a session factory using XML configuration file. So what I'll do, I'll copy this project and I'll create another project with this different name with same content. So here I'm gonna copy this project and I would paste in the same workspace with different name. So let's paste this guy and I would say Hibernate save and persist example, something like this, and click on OK. Now I'm going to close all my previous project. Let's close this project and let's expand this guy. Now what I'll do, now as we have changed the project name, so Maven dependency is getting downloaded in the M2 directory for this project, and after some time, just you can see now it has gone. All dependency has been added in the Maven dependencies directory, and this dependency has been fetched from the Maven central repository, and that is added in this directory. Now here we have a configuration file, right, which we have created in previous video tutorial, so which basically holds the all database related information, and there are some properties which is specific to Hibernate as well. Now this is a utility class which we have written in past videos. So if you did not watch my past videos, previous video, then I request you to go and watch how we can write this utility class from scratch, right? So we have a static method, and here in the static method we are creating the session factory, and that same session factory is getting returned from this factory method. And here we have a client program, and client program just we are executing a SQL query, and if I run this project, then this will return us the what MySQL version currently we are using. So that's getting printed by this SQL query, right? And here just I have shown you how we can make use of the session factory, or basically how we can create a session from session factory, and how we can execute a simple SQL query using a method is called create native query, right? So now in this video we are going to look how we can create a entity class. So here let's go ahead and create a package com.infotech.entities. So this is the package, all my entity class I'm going to dump inside this package. So first entity class I'm gonna create is called employee. What is saying that package name is not valid. Okay, double dot here. Now this is first entity class we are going to write from scratch. So now in ORM framework like Hibernate, this class is called as entity class because I want this class to be mapped with the some database table in the database side. So this class has to mark as entity, right? And this annotation should import from the javax.persistence. So this is a JPA compliant annotation, right? So we have annotated as @entity, means we have a separate database table on database side. Now if you do not specify the table name, then Hibernate will take the class name as a table name, but we don't want to decouple these things, we want to be loosely coupled. So here I'm going to use annotation is called table, and here we are going to specify table name as employee underscore table, right? So here we are going to just learn. So Hibernate. So we'll allow Hibernate to create a table for us. So first of all, Hibernate will look into the database. This table is doesn't exist, then Hibernate will create this table. So that's what we have given the table name as employee table. Now we are going to declare some fields like employee integer. I would say employee ID. This is first property I have declared. Now, sorry, private. We have a second property is called employee name. Employee name. Now private string email. Private, let's say date. I would say DOJ, date of joining. Now next field I'm going to declare private, let's say double salary. So as of now, just I'm going to freeze up to this much field. If you want, you may add more fields. Now here I'm going to create a setters and getters for these fields. So that's the way basically we design the entity class in Hibernate. So this is a simple POJO class, right, which contains private fields with corresponding public setter getter method. Okay, now next, let me make the full screen. Now when you design an entity class in Hibernate, then Hibernate is expecting from you at least one property you will have to declare as a primary key. And how do we do that? By specifying this property as @ID. So @ID either you can specify before the property name or before the corresponding public getter method, right? So now these two annotations, @entity and @ID, is mandatory while designing the entity class. Rest of the annotations are optional. Even this annotation is also optional. If you do not specify, then Hibernate will think table name is as a class name itself. Now here I'm going to use another annotation is called generated value. So primary key we want as a auto generated, and here we'll have to specify the strategy. So you can see we have a lot of strategy, auto, identity, sequence, and table. So at this point of time I'm going to select as identity. Right, if you select auto, right, then in Hibernate 5, Hibernate is going to generate a separate table to create a primary key, right, if you select auto. But Hibernate 4 will not create a separate table. But if you select identity, then Hibernate is not going to create a separate table to maintain the primary key. Now next annotation I'm going to use something is called column annotations, right? And again this import will happen from, there is spelling mistake, column, and import will happen from the Java X.persistence, and this guy is having some property like name. Column name we want as a employee underscore ID, right? Now when you mark a property as a primary key, then of course not null as well as unique constraint will automatically apply on this property. Now next I'm going to use again column annotations, and here I'm going to use name equals to something like this, and this annotation I'm going to paste before every property. So these annotations either you can use before the property name or before your public getter of this property, right? Now here we want the column name for this we want this property to be mapped with the column name is called employee underscore name. Now column name for this property email, here we want the date of joining, and here we want the column as salary itself, right? Now this way we can design our entity class. Now there are many more property you can there are many more attributes you can define over here, like you can define a length. So if you do not define a length, then in MySQL this will take the default length at 256 character. So here I'm going to specify length as 100. Now nullable, I'm gonna make it false. That means this will apply the not null constraint on it. So right, and here email, I'm gonna apply the unique constraint. So this will apply unique constraint on this column. So there are many more attributes for column. We'll talk those properties in the those attributes in the next future session. So as of now, we have created our entity class in this fashion, right? So it's pretty straightforward. Now let's go to the client program, and here we want to persist one entity object into the database, right? So let me delete this code snippet, and here, so in client program I have created a private method, it's private static method, which basically returns as employee object. So here I have created an employee object, just I have set values for its property, and this guy is going to return us the employee object. Here you can see one thing, I haven't set values for the employee ID, because employee ID we have made as auto generated. We want the auto generated, right? So that's the reason I didn't set employee ID. Now we are calling this method, and this returns us the employee. Right, now we have a session. So here I have used try with resources. So in this case you don't need to close the session in the final block. So that's the property of try with resources. That is the one of the feature which was added in the JDK 1.7. Now from session, basically you will have to begin the transaction, because we are going to make some changes on the database side. Means we want to save the entity state on the database side, right? So that's the reason you need to begin the transaction, right? And here you have a session is having method is called save, and here you will have to pass the entity class, right, which is going to return by this method get. And finally session, what you will have to do, session dot get transaction. So current transaction will have to get and commit it. So this will make the permanent change on the database side, right? Now client program we have written. Now let's go to the configuration file, and here you will have to specify some property. Those properties are not some of the property which is basically optional, right? So first optional property I'm going to specify something is called HBM2DDL, right? Dot auto, and that I'm going to specify as create. What is these things we'll talk about later, right? There are a lot of many property you can specify. Create means Hibernate will create a database table for us, whatever table we have specified in our entity class. If you run the second time, then existing table will be dropped and that will be recreated. That's the significance of create. Now next property I'm going to specify that is as I told you earlier, Hibernate has capability to generate the SQL query on the fly, right? And those SQL query, if you want to see on the console, then you will have to make this flag so SQL true. And those SQL query, if you want to see in the formatted fashion, then you will have to specify the flag as format underscore SQL true. So that SQL query will be displayed on the console as a formatted fashion. And finally, one of the mandatory tag will have to specify mapping, and this is having a attribute is called class. So all entity class you will have to register over here with qualified package name. So let's copy the qualified package name, and here I'm gonna register this guy, right? And if I run this project, then tables should be created on the database side. And so here this is saying that employee table does not exist. So guys, I'm running out of time, so this error I'm going to fix in the next video tutorial. So here whatever flag we have specified over here, that is not going to work perfectly fine. So here HBM2DDL.auto we have specified, but this is not working perfectly. So let's see, we'll fix in this error in the next video tutorial. So see you there, and thanks for watching.